Hello, Virgo. Before we go anywhere, let me say this. You are still here, still searching, still hoping that the thing you've been carrying alone will finally lift. That takes a kind of quiet strength most people never name. Thank you for being here. Now, let's drop in. There is a name you no longer speak, a presence you tried to erase from your field of vision, a shadow that stood between you and someone who mattered, dictating the rules of a game you never agreed to play. That shadow has a face, an energy, a story. You spent nights wondering what it had that you didn't, what it offered that you couldn't offer, why it was there and you were not. Those nights are behind you, not fully healed, maybe, but far enough that you can look at the situation with different eyes, eyes that see what was invisible before. Let's talk about this third party, not as a rival, as a symptom. The presence of another person in a romantic dynamic is rarely about that person. It is about a crack in the foundation, a gap that someone else was allowed to fill because something was already hollow. That is not your fault. It was never your fault. The hollow was there before you arrived. The crack was there before you crossed the threshold. You did not create it. You simply discovered it. And discovering it cost you something. Peace, trust, the ability to sleep through the night without wondering. Now, something is different. You feel it in the air around certain memories. A lightness where there was once weight, a distance where there was once a constant, nagging pull. The situation you spent so much energy tracking, analyzing, trying to control has been moving on its own, without your input, without your worry, without the endless loops of thinking that kept you tethered to a story that was never yours to write. That movement is not random. It is the natural result of energy that has been blocked finally finding its way. Here is what I want you to understand about the shift that is happening. The third party dynamic, whatever form it took, was never stable. It was built on ground that was shifting from the start. People who enter situations that require them to be hidden, to be secondary, to be the option rather than the choice, do not stay there forever. Not because they are good or bad, because the human spirit craves wholeness. It craves the light. It cannot live indefinitely in the basement of someone else's indecision. That craving eventually becomes a force that moves people out of arrangements that were never designed to hold them. You may already be seeing the evidence, not in dramatic announcements, in small signs, a change in availability, a shift in energy, a feeling that the old triangle has lost its tension, its sharpness, its ability to keep you up at night. These signs are not coincidences. They are the visible edges of an invisible transformation. The third party, wherever they are, is doing their own math, adding up what they gained and what they lost, counting the cost of staying in a situation that asked them to be less than whole. That math has a way of arriving at an answer, and that answer is rarely stay. The timeline you are holding is not a prediction. It is a marker, a point in the flow of days where the energy of change tends to concentrate, like the moment when winter shifts to spring. You cannot point to the exact second, but you know when it has happened. The air feels different. The light looks different. Your body responds to something it cannot name. That is where you are standing now, at the edge of a season change, in a situation that has felt frozen for too long. The thaw is not dramatic. It is slow. It is quiet, but it is real. Let me speak directly to the fear that lives beneath this hope. The fear that nothing will change, that the third party will remain planted exactly where they are, that you will wake up on the other side of this timeline and find the same old weight sitting on your chest. That fear is not prophecy. It is the echo of past disappointments. It is the voice of a version of you that learned not to trust the arc of things. That version kept you safe when safety meant expecting the worst, but you are not that version anymore. You have grown past the need to armor yourself against hope. You have learned that hope, when it is grounded in the truth of your own worth, is not naive. It is accurate. The shift you are sensing is not about them. It is about you. The third-party situation could change in 1,000 ways, but none of them will matter if you are still standing in the same place, waiting for external events to validate your value. The real change is the one happening inside you, the slow, unglamorous work of reclaiming your attention, of redirecting your energy, of building a life that does not have a waiting room for people who are not sure they want to show up. That work is not flashy. It does not make for good headlines. But it is the foundation upon which every other shift is built. Consider what it would mean to stop tracking the third party, to delete the mental file, to close the browser tab in your mind that keeps refreshing for updates. That is not surrender. That is sovereignty. It is the declaration that your peace is not contingent on the movements of people who do not have your best interests at heart. It is the choice to become the main character of your own story, even if that means other characters fade into the background. That choice is available to you now, not tomorrow, not when the timeline arrives. Now. The April you are holding is not a deadline. It is a doorway. A doorway you have been walking toward for months, maybe years, without knowing it. Every time you chose yourself over the drama, you took a step. Every time you refused to check their social media, you took a step. Every time you let yourself feel something other than the obsessive loop of wondering, you took a step. Those steps have brought you here to the threshold, to the moment where the old story loses its grip and a new one begins to write itself. You do not need to know what the new story says. You only need to step through. And what about the third party? Let them go. Not with resentment, with release. They were never the point. They were a signpost pointing to something you needed to heal within yourself. The insecurity, the fear of not being enough, the pattern of choosing people who could not fully choose you. Those are the real issues. And those issues are not fixed by the third party leaving. They are fixed by you standing fully in your own worth, regardless of who stays and who goes. That standing is the work of this season. The external changes will follow. They always do. So hold the timeline lightly. Let it be a soft focus, not a death grip. Let it remind you that time moves, that situations evolve, that nothing stays frozen forever. But do not let it become a cage. Your freedom is not on the other side of April. It is here, now, in this breath, in this choice to stop outsourcing your peace to circumstances you cannot control. That freedom is the real prize. The shift in the third-party situation is just its shadow. You have waited long enough, not for them, for yourself. For the moment when you would finally, fully choose your own life over the drama of someone else's indecision. That moment is now. The timeline is just a marker. You are the movement. I don't sell futures. I build architects. No predictions, just the raw truth for the tough ones. Stay magic. Stay in the now.